Have you ever noticed how, in the royal family, the biggest secrets are never announced in public? They slip out quietly behind palace walls until suddenly someone can't stay silent anymore? And this time, the silence may have finally been broken by none other than Prince William himself. Because just minutes ago, royal insiders began whispering about a private inheritance connected to Duchess Sophie, an inheritance so unexpected, so sensitive, that it reportedly left Queen Camilla absolutely furious behind closed doors. And if these reports are true, this could completely change how people see the future of the royal family. For years, Duchess Sophie has been known as the calm one, the loyal one. While headlines focused on scandals, rivalries, and public drama, Sophie quietly stayed in the background, supporting the monarchy without demanding attention. But insiders now claim that behind that calm image was a deeply protected royal arrangement that almost nobody knew about. And according to palace sources, Prince William recently decided it was finally time for the truth to come out. Now, before we go further, you need to understand why this story is exploding online so fast. Because this isn't just about money, it's about trust, power, influence, and who truly matters inside the royal family. The rumors began after several royal commentators noticed something strange during a recent private royal discussion involving William, Sophie, and senior palace advisors. At first, nobody paid attention. But then one insider reportedly revealed that Sophie had quietly become connected to a confidential inheritance structure tied to royal estates and long-term family protection plans. That single leak changed everything. Almost instantly, royal watchers began asking the same question. Why would Sophie receive something so important, and why was it kept hidden for so long? And that's where Camilla reportedly became furious. Because according to multiple insiders, Camilla believed the royal spotlight and influence over future royal assets should remain centered around the direct line surrounding King Charles and her own position within the monarchy. But William allegedly saw things differently. Very differently. Sources now claim William has developed enormous respect for Sophie over the years, especially after watching how she handled pressure during some of the monarchy's most difficult moments. While others created headlines, Sophie stayed disciplined. While public approval ratings shifted wildly around different royals, Sophie's reputation remained surprisingly strong. And insiders say William noticed all of it. One former palace staffer even claimed that William views Sophie as one of the few royals the public still genuinely trusts. That matters more than people realize. Because right now, trust is becoming the most valuable currency inside the monarchy. Not titles, not ceremonies, trust. And according to reports, William believes Sophie represents stability at a time when the royal family desperately needs it. But here's where things become even more dramatic. The inheritance being discussed reportedly isn't just symbolic. It may involve private estate influence, future royal protection arrangements, and access connected to long-standing royal wealth structures that have remained hidden from public discussion for decades. That's why palace insiders allegedly panicked when William started speaking more openly about Sophie's role. One commentator even described the atmosphere behind palace doors as ice-cold. And then came the reaction that stunned everyone. Camilla. Sources close to the palace claim she was deeply unhappy after hearing details of William's discussions regarding Sophie's future standing within the monarchy. Some insiders even say tensions became visible during recent private royal gatherings, where body language between senior royals reportedly appeared unusually strained. Now officially, nobody inside the palace is confirming anything. But royal fans believe the silence itself says a lot. Because when stories are completely false, they usually disappear quickly. This one hasn't. In fact, it's growing bigger every hour. And social media is already exploding with theories. Some people believe William is quietly preparing a more modern inner circle for the monarchy's future. Others think this could signal a major shift away from old palace power dynamics. And then there are those who believe this entire situation reveals something even deeper. That William may trust Sophie more than several senior royals currently surrounding the king. If that's true, the consequences inside the palace could be enormous. Because royal influence has always depended on proximity, loyalty, and public image. and Sophie suddenly appears stronger in all three areas. What makes this even more fascinating is how unexpected Sophie's rise has been. Years ago, very few people imagined she would become one of the monarchy's most respected figures. She wasn't the loudest royal. She wasn't constantly chasing attention. But slowly, quietly, she built something far more powerful: credibility. And in today's royal climate, credibility may be worth more than crowns. That's reportedly one reason William has grown increasingly protective of her role. He understands public perception better than most people inside the palace. He knows which royals connect with ordinary people and which ones create controversy. And according to insiders, Sophie consistently ranks among the safest and most trusted members of the family. Meanwhile, Camilla's public image has always faced challenges despite years of efforts to stabilize it. So when whispers emerged that Sophie might now hold access to a protected inheritance arrangement supported by William himself, palace tensions reportedly exploded almost instantly. And honestly, some royal experts believe this could just be the beginning. Because if William is already strengthening Sophie's future position now, what happens once he eventually becomes king? That question alone has royal watchers obsessed. Would Sophie receive even greater influence? Would William restructure the royal inner circle entirely? And most importantly, how would Camilla react if her influence continued shrinking over time? Those are the questions nobody inside the palace wants to answer publicly. But behind closed doors, insiders claim those conversations are already happening. And the deeper people look into this story, the clearer one thing becomes. This may not simply be about inheritance at all. It may actually be about the future balance of power inside the British monarchy itself. And if William truly has chosen Sophie as one of his most trusted royal allies, then the royal family could be heading toward one of its biggest internal shifts in years. What makes this situation even more intense is the timing behind it all. Because according to royal insiders, these conversations about Duchess Sophie's inheritance and future role didn't begin overnight. They've apparently been building quietly for years, hidden beneath the surface, while the public focused on completely different royal dramas. And now, people close to the palace believe Prince William has finally reached a point where he no longer wants certain decisions controlled by the old royal system. That alone is sending shockwaves through royal circles. One insider claimed William has become increasingly determined to protect the monarchy's long-term image, especially after watching public trust collapse during multiple scandals surrounding senior royals in recent years. He reportedly believes the future of the crown depends on placing reliable, respected figures closer to the center of power. And in his eyes, Sophie may be one of the few royals who still fits that description perfectly. But here's where things become even more complicated. Because Camilla allegedly never expected Sophie to rise this far inside royal influence. For years, Sophie operated quietly beside Prince Edward, carrying out engagements without attracting controversy. Many saw her as supportive, but not powerful. That perception has now completely changed. Royal commentators are suddenly calling Sophie William's secret weapon. And insiders say that phrase is making certain palace figures deeply uncomfortable. Especially Camilla. Because according to reports, tensions have been growing privately between supporters of the king's traditional royal structure and younger figures align more closely with William's vision for the monarchy's future. And Sophie reportedly sits right in the middle of that divide. Some sources even claim William has been consulting Sophie more frequently during sensitive royal discussions, particularly when conversations involve public image, family stability, and future planning. If true, that's a massive development.
Why?
Because influence inside the royal family is rarely announced publicly. It's measured quietly. Who gets invited into private conversations? Who receives trust? Who gets protected? And lately, insiders claim Sophie has been receiving all three. That's why this inheritance story matters so much more than people think. It isn't just about wealth. It's about status inside the royal machine. The moment reports surfaced suggesting Sophie had access to a protected royal inheritance arrangement, people immediately started asking whether William himself supported the decision behind the scenes. And, according to palace whispers, he absolutely did. That reportedly triggered panic among certain royal insiders who feared the balance of influence around the monarchy was beginning to shift away from older power networks. One royal commentator even said, "The palace understands William is thinking long-term now. Every relationship around him matters." And Sophie appears to be one of the relationships he values most. Meanwhile, Camilla's reported frustration may come from something even deeper than inheritance itself: control. Because throughout royal history, influence over estates, royal resources, and family positioning has always shaped who truly holds power behind palace walls. Public titles only tell part of the story. The real influence happens privately. And insiders now believe William may already be building the inner circle he wants around him before eventually taking the throne. If that's true, Sophie's importance could grow dramatically in the years ahead. In fact, some royal watchers think William sees Sophie as a stabilizing figure similar to the role once held by Queen Elizabeth during difficult times. Calm, careful, trusted, never reckless. Those qualities matter enormously to William right now, especially after years of royal controversies damaging the monarchy's image across the world. And that's why this story is spreading so fast online, because people aren't just reacting to gossip anymore. They're reacting to the possibility that a major royal power shift is already happening quietly behind closed doors. Social media users are already dividing into camps. Some believe William is making smart decisions for the future. Others think the growing divide between his circle and Camilla's supporters could eventually become impossible to hide. And then there are the royal insiders who believe tensions inside the palace are already far worse than the public realizes. One source even claimed recent family gatherings have felt carefully managed, with certain senior royals avoiding deeper conversations entirely. Imagine how serious things must be if even private royal interactions are becoming tense. And still, the palace refuses to directly address the inheritance rumors. That silence keeps fueling speculation, because every hour without a denial makes people believe there may be at least some truth hidden underneath the headlines. But perhaps the most surprising part of this entire story is Sophie herself. She hasn't publicly responded. No dramatic interviews. No emotional statements. Nothing. And strangely, that silence may be making her even more powerful. Because while others inside the royal family often become trapped in media storms, Sophie continues appearing calm and composed. That image only strengthens William's reported trust in her. Royal experts say William admires people who remain disciplined under pressure, something he learned firsthand growing up inside one of the most scrutinized families on earth. And Sophie's ability to avoid chaos may be exactly why her role is growing now. But behind the scenes, insiders claim the real fear inside the palace is what happens next. Because if William continues elevating Sophie's influence, then certain long-standing royal alliances could begin weakening permanently. And once royal power structures start shifting, history shows they rarely return to the way they were before. That's why some commentators believe this inheritance story may eventually become remembered as the moment everything quietly changed inside the monarchy. Not publicly, not officially, but privately, where the real royal battles have always happened. And if these palace whispers are true, Prince William may have just changed the future of the royal family forever.